Can you tell me who you are and why how you managed to live on the edge?
Hello, my name's Pete Ashton. I live in Birmingham, South Birmingham. I probably need to tell a longish story. I don't have any real qualifications. I flunked through my A-levels. I did an access course later on and went to university, and I didn't complete my degree. But I've always thought about stuff. I've never been academically proficient, if you like. So I wound up working in a bookshop, working for Waterstones. I did that for a number of years. And around 2003, I found myself stumbling towards retail management and realizing I was going to be a shop manager. And that, coupled with a few other things, got me to leave, to quit. And I wound up working on a farm on the Isle of Wight, on the woofing scheme, the Willing Workers and Organic Farms scheme, where you don't get paid, but you get bed and board in return for a few hours work each day. So I was living in a caravan on the Isle of Wight with no money. I'm living on about £5 a week, I think was my budget. And I did that for about 3 months until I ran out of money, and then I moved on, and I realised that had taught me how to live without buying stuff. So it taught me to live frugally. So when I finished that, I moved back to Birmingham and just temped. I did little temp jobs, warehouse work, labouring, worked for a couple of weeks and to get the money to pay the rent, and spent the other couple of weeks doing stuff. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I thought it might be something to do with computers. But all the way through this, I was blogging, I was writing stuff down, I was starting to take photographs. It became an important thing for me to diarise this experience, if you like. Although at the time it was just something I would do. And then, because of this blogging stuff, I started blogging about the city a bit more. Started thinking about getting involved with other people who were doing stuff in Birmingham, particularly with Flickr on photos. I would meet up with other photographers and we'd do stuff in the city. We'd go for walks. We'd start documenting things happening in the city. And through that, I met a guy called Steph Lewandowski, who was working with the Creative Industries, a Creative Industries lobby group, and we set up Created in Birmingham, which was originally just to highlight the creative activities of the city. So it was like an awareness boosting thing, but actually it turned out to be something more important. It was about providing a grassroots style media outlet for all of the creative industries, whether it be the big theatres or the small bands or the little guy doing paintings in his back room. And the sort of subtext of that was to say to all these creative organisations and creative people that they could do their own media. It was taking a sort of DIY media approach and applying it to them. And in a way, sort of breaking down this idea of when you put something on, you send out a press release to the local paper and they reprint that, and then it was more about this a more complex networky type grassroots thing. Yeah, and so the thing with that was that paid me some money. It paid me about £500 a month, which was coincidentally the same amount of money I was getting for the temping. So I could do blogging full time, which was quite a revelation. And then, because this blog was a bit of a hit and people were paying attention to it, people were then asking me for help on that. So then the consultancy side thing came along. So not only was I being paid to blog, and this was like 2007, so there was a very strange idea to be paid to run a blog. I was then being paid to talk about blogging, which was even weirder. Um, but the angle I was coming at it from was I think kind of interesting. I was doing quite a lot of training workshops for self-employed artists or small traders, taking the angle that the nice thing about the blogs and what we now call social media is it relies on personality and on what makes them interesting, and they are inherently interesting people. Yeah, so I'm currently, I've fallen into this slightly strange situation where the idea of having a full-time job, in fact, the idea of going to an employment agency just seems really wrong or really weird, and it would take quite a lot for me to make that leap back into being an employee. I've got to the stage where I do live off my own work, the stuff that I do, whether it's talking about it, whether it's doing it. Sometimes sometimes it doesn't seem particularly important, like just doing a bit of photography here and there. Other times I feel like I'm making a difference or helping people to make their lives better. But the main thing is I am my own master in a lot of ways. I choose what I do. I can turn down work. I don't turn down much work, but I can turn down work if I want to. And I enjoy it. I get a lot more enjoyment out of this than I've ever got out of anything I've done for money before, I think. Is there a particular angle on that you want to?
Yeah, what's interesting to me is that you seem to kind of come up with these things. Okay, so you said you met Steph and you did the Created in Birmingham, and of course that became a very well-known blog and won awards and whatever. But then you seem to have come up with a lot of other ideas and things you've investigated or instigated, because you were kind of like a pioneer. So for example, like the social media surgery, which has gone on to be, just won a prize by, from the Prime Minister or whatever it is. And also to me, it's a very interesting thing, the way you kind of use your blog and your network to do these things, to set these things up. Like, as you say, with the photography thing, you're doing the photography courses now, or whatever. I mean, where do your ideas come from, and how does the kind of thing of, I'll go and sit in a bar and do a social media surgery. How do these kind of things come about?
Well, the ideas come from. I have the opinion that ideas aren't worth anything. Ideas shouldn't really be protected. If you don't have enough ideas, then you're kind of doing something wrong. Or if you have to protect your ideas, then you're doing something wrong. It's not the idea that's valuable. It's actually doing it. It's putting it into practice that has value. So I genuinely, if I have an idea, I just throw it out there. Because if I can't do something with it, I'd like to see someone else do something with it. And also, ideas that you have on your own that you keep to yourself, they're never as valuable as the ones that you share and then other people add to and that evolve. I understand the need for intellectual property, but I don't think it's particularly valuable when it comes to developing ideas and developing things. I don't think I could ever sign I've never been asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement, but I don't think I could really do that because it wouldn't make sense to me. It wouldn't work for me. I would be constantly afraid of breaking it. So when I have these ideas, most of the time they're a bit silly and they don't really work. I mean, it's a bit like looking at classic films from the 1940s. You think that the 1940s was a golden era, but that's only because the good films survived. There was a hell of a lot of rubbish films in the 1940s, and I've had a hell of a lot of rubbish ideas. But but some of them have worked and some of them have hit. The social media surgeries one was a good one, but what's noticeable about that is I only ran those for about 3 or 4 months, and then Nick Booth took the idea and ran with it, and it's Nick Booth that's turned it into whatever it has become now, a global movement. I'm happy to still take credit for coming up with the idea and for laying the foundations for it, but I wouldn't take credit for where it's got to now. What was the other ideas I've had? A lot of the time the social media surgery thing came out of necessity because I wanted to, before I got busy, I needed to, sorry, I'll start again. Before I got busy, I found myself helping people and meeting people in cafes to talk about what I was doing, but I found myself with less time to do that, so I thought, okay, I'll just sit in a cafe for an afternoon. If nobody turns up, I'll get some work done. If people turn up, I'll help them with stuff. And that idea of, and I thought this is a bit like a doctor's surgery, so I called it a surgery. But it was a necessity. I needed to do it. With the blogging in general, blogging my ideas, it's sort of a necessity. It's how I think. I work things through by writing about them. Quite often when I start writing, I don't know how I'm going to end this. It's like I'm having it's almost like therapy in a way, in that I've got a problem, I'm trying to work through it, and I write it all down.
What are the tools, or what are the things that enable you to turn these ideas into maybe jobs, or into gainful employment, or into something that you consider successful?
I really don't know how that works. I put a lot of stuff out there and sometimes stuff comes back. One thing I learned when I was doing temping was that job security isn't actually that big a deal. As long as you're sort of, I mean, obviously it helps to be in an environment where there is work, and I wouldn't want to diminish, or what's what I'm looking for. I wouldn't want to minimise the sort of the yeah,
it's on the tip of your tongue.
It is. It's like about making people who are in like poor places feel bad about themselves. I don't want to get into a sort of Norman Tebbit, get on your bike type thing. There's work out there if you look for it. But if you're in an environment where there is work, if you're prepared to do pretty much any work, if you're also able and to cut your costs down, I don't have any dependencies. I don't have anybody relying on me, or children, or anything. Then there isn't a huge risk. You can, generally speaking, get by. And while I have to be careful, and I'm not saying, I have a cash flow system, and I make sure that I've got 3 months' money in the bank and so on. I try to. I try and make sure I've got one big job each month that will cover the costs. I don't have to worry too much about whether my ideas are going to turn into work. And a lot of the time my ideas don't turn into work. What they do is they establish me as somebody who's interesting and worth thinking about working with. And so while I might do the crazy ideas for fun, they lead to a website building job, or they lead to how can I market my club night on Twitter more effectively, which those things don't particularly interest me, but they pay the bills. So tools-wise, basically, I use the internet, and I use the internet to connect with people and to share my ideas around, and to share other people's ideas. I have my own blogs and so forth, but there's nothing particularly revolutionary about those tools.